In the quiet town of Redstone, where justice often arrived late and prejudice arrived early, a storm was building long before anyone noticed, and it all began with a simple late-night drive. Marcus Hale cruised down the dim highway at a steady pace, exhausted from a long meeting but relieved to finally be heading home. He wasn't speeding, he wasn't swerving, he wasn't doing anything wrong. But for some men in Redstone, the color of his skin was reason enough. Blue and red lights burst to life behind him. "Not tonight," Marcus whispered as he pulled over. Officer Craig Dalton, known around town for his temper and his selective enforcement of the law, approached the window with heavy, intimidating steps. He tapped the glass sharply. "Evening, license, and registration. If this car is even yours." Marcus forced a steady breath. "It is." "Good evening to you too, officer." "Don't get smart," Dalton snapped. "Hands where I can see 'em." Marcus complied. Every movement was slow, visible, practiced. He'd done this dance before. Dalton shined a flashlight directly in his face. "Where are you headed?" "Bit late for a joyride." "I'm coming from a meeting," Marcus said. Did I ask for a speech?" Dalton barked. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus hesitated only a second before obeying. He knew what resisting even politely could cost him. Dalton circled him like a wolf testing its prey. "What's in the trunk?" "Tools, files, nothing illegal." "We'll see about that." Marcus attempted calm. "Officer, unless you have probable cause." Dalton stepped close, breath hot and threatening. "Boy, I am probable cause." Marcus had heard many versions of that line in his life, but something in him refused to bend tonight. He exhaled slowly, then reached carefully into his jacket. Dalton's hand flew to his gun. "Hands out. Hands out now." "Relax," Marcus said. "You're aiming at your new boss." Dalton froze. "What did you just say?" Marcus pulled out a sealed official letter. "The appointment of Redstone's new chief of police, effective tomorrow morning." Dalton laughed cruelly. "This? You? Chief? Nice fake. You people always gotta hustle." "It's real," Marcus said. "Call the mayor." Scowling, Dalton dialed. The mayor answered immediately. "Dalton, why are you calling?" "Sir, I have some guy claiming Marcus Hale." The mayor interrupted. "Yes, he's the new chief. Is everything all right?" Silence smothered the air. Dalton's throat clicked. "Yes, sir. Good. I trust he was treated with respect." Dalton swallowed. "Of course." He hung up slowly, turning pale as the truth settled in. Marcus didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply stood there with the dignity Dalton tried to strip away. "Officer Dalton," Marcus said evenly. "There was no misunderstanding. There was profiling, harassment, and abuse of authority." Dalton opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Turn on your body cam," Marcus said. "Its hit is on," Dalton whispered. "Good. Keep it on." Marcus walked to the trunk, opened it himself, and proved everything he had said. Nothing illegal. Nothing suspicious. Dalton stood rigid, a man suddenly stripped of the power he'd leaned on like a crutch his entire career. "Officer Dalton," Marcus continued, "I'll see you at the department. Tomorrow, wear your full uniform, and bring your incident reports from the last 6 months." Dalton nodded shakily. "Yes, sir." Marcus returned to his car and started the engine. But as he pulled back onto the highway, something caught the corner of his eye. A black SUV rolled slowly behind him, windows tinted darker than legal. Moving deliberately, watching, the SUV paused for a moment, engine low and threatening, before disappearing into the night. Marcus didn't notice the way it followed him from a distance. But someone inside that SUV had been waiting for this night, and Marcus Hale, becoming the new chief, didn't inspire fear in them. It threatened their entire operation. Justice had finally found a voice in Redstone. But in the shadows, someone was already planning to silence it, and their move was already in motion. The next morning, Redstone woke to a quiet unease. Marcus Hale arrived at the police department earlier than anyone expected. His footsteps echoed through the empty halls, a rhythmic reminder that change had come whether the department liked it or not. Officer Dalton was already there, shifting nervously, glancing at every shadow as if they might swallow him whole. Marcus didn't shout, didn't scold. He simply walked past, eyes steady, carrying the weight of authority like armor. "Good morning, Dalton," Marcus said calmly. Dalton swallowed hard. Good morning, Chief. Marcus's gaze swept the room, and officers who had whispered behind closed doors felt a shift immediately. The tension in the air was palpable. Power had changed hands overnight, and suddenly, those who had laughed in corridors now waited, unsure what to say or do. Marcus called a meeting in the main conference room. Officers filed in, murmuring quietly. Dalton sat stiffly in the back, avoiding Marcus's eyes. Marcus began with a simple truth. This department exists to serve this community, not to intimidate, not to profile, and certainly not to protect those who abuse power. Every officer here will be held accountable. Silence. Not a single objection. Marcus continued, detailing new protocols, emphasizing transparency, and warning that any misconduct past or future would be scrutinized. Dalton's face grew pale. He realized the new chief had the authority to investigate him fully, to expose the years of corner-cutting abuse and favoritism. By noon, Dalton received a message. Marcus had ordered a full review of his incident reports, beginning with the last 6 months. Each report was meticulously documented, each body cam review logged, each complaint cross-checked. Dalton's hands trembled as he opened his first file. The truth stared back at him: mistakes, exaggerations, unreported abuses, all now traceable and undeniable. He had wielded power recklessly, assuming no one would challenge him. But Marcus was no ordinary challenge. Meanwhile, Marcus met with the community. He listened to stories of harassment, of fear, of nights like the one on the highway. Each tale strengthened his resolve, each voice adding urgency to his mission. Dalton watched from the corner of the room, realizing that his former authority was crumbling in real time. The officers whispered. Some dared to smile, feeling for the first time that justice could exist inside their own department. By evening, Dalton's world had collapsed. Marcus enforced accountability with precision. Misconduct reports were reviewed publicly, mistakes corrected, officers reminded of their oath. Dalton, once feared, now lived in fear, watched, exposed, and powerless to undo the shift he had underestimated. For the first time in years, he felt what it meant to be on the other side of justice. Outside, Redstone streets were calm, but Marcus knew the city would not forget the shift that had just occurred. Officer Dalton, the embodiment of privilege and unchecked authority, had been humbled, stripped of his arrogance, forced to confront the damage he had caused. And Marcus, steady, unshaken, disciplined, had not only won the battle, but had cemented a warning to those who would misuse power again in Redstone. Justice would no longer sleep. Marcus drove home that night, the city lights reflecting on his windshield. He allowed himself a moment of relief. The storm of corruption in his department had been challenged, and for now at least, the scales were balanced. Officer Dalton's career hung in the balance, accountability looming over him like a shadow he could not escape. The underdog had risen, the underestimated man had claimed his rightful place, and the message was clear. Justice, once patient, had finally arrived. The night was quiet, but it carried a new energy of promise. Redstone had changed. Marcus Hale, the man who had once been profiled, harassed, and underestimated, now held the authority, respect, and power to ensure that no one in his city would abuse theirs again. And as he stepped out of his car, the cool night air brushing his face, he knew the lesson was more than personal victory. Power alone can intimidate, but courage, integrity, and resilience command true respect. Redstone had witnessed justice tonight, and the city, for the first time in decades, breathed a little easier.